Hi everyone, it's Rax. There is an amazing build for the Monk which may be the very best solo clearing build for them in Season 19 that I'd like to show you. I'll start off with some gameplay and then of course I'll show you exactly how to build it. So this is essentially, honestly, a whirlwind build for the Monk. All you do is channel Tempest Rush and use your abilities at just the right time in the cold cycle to blow everything up, okay? So let me run over what I'm doing here. What I do is I gather everything up, and in my cold cycle, I blind, and then I release my Tempest Rush to essentially detonate the room, okay? So I'm holding Tempest Rush, and I run, and I run, and I run. You'll see I'm constantly cycloning all of the monsters together. I'm not actually pressing a Cyclone Strike. It's just automatically happening from the new Wan Kim Lao buff, which we'll get into in the itemization section. But essentially, all the time when we're casting Tempest Rush, we're sucking all the monsters together and we're able to blow them up. So if you look in the bottom middle of my screen, my cold cycle is about to come up. I cast Blind, and then I release, and boom, everything's gone. Okay, and then I immediately start channeling Tempest Rush again, and I just run forward. Other than spamming Epiphany all the time, that's really all that I do. You need to also press Sweeping Wind if you're going through a long stretch of monsters where you're not encountering anything. But other than that, it's all it is. Channel Tempest Rush. When cold comes, you blind, and then you release Tempest Rush to detonate a bomb. Okay, so here's physical. As you can see, wormholes are going to affect your ability to keep your stacks. As long as you're continuing to hold Tempest Rush, you're going to build stacks up to 100, and actually a full cold cycle to the next cold cycle is actually exactly 100 stacks, so you can get maximum damage out of it if you release just at the end of cold every single time. There is one little problem with this build. Monsters with a very big hitbox will cause you to teleport and drop your stacks. These are big monsters like Golgors and Paragons, things like that. I haven't found a good way to deal with them. Some people say try moving your mouse off of the screen. I've tried that. It hasn't worked very well for me. And Blizzard seems to have some things coming out on Tuesday which may help with this. The way that I have been dealing with it is I just skip those big monsters. If I see a big Golgor or a big Parenti, I just move on with my life, because if you teleport to them, then you're going to lose your 100 stacks and you're not going to deal any damage. As you see there, I blinded and I detonated that Tempest Rush and blew them up in one shot quite easily on a 120, and this build has pushed far beyond GR 130, and that's without the seasonal buff. So here we go one more time. It's cold, I blind, I release, everything dies, okay? Let me skip ahead in the video and let's see what a Guardian fight looks like. Alright, and let's do this final pop and get the Guardian up, and let's see how this goes. Now, for science, I decided to take the speed pylon to see if I could keep my spirit up, and it did work for me. But as you're going to hear me talk about in the itemization portion, you do not want attack speed for this build, so you may not want to take the speed pylon for the Guardian. Here comes the hit. Oh, we hit the boss for like 90% of his health on the very first hit, so it kind of made me wonder if Bane of the Stricken was needed for this build, but it may be needed for a rank 1 push. But you can see the surprise on my face. I wasn't expecting it to deal that much. It is guaranteed to crit, but you can see that dealing with the Guardian is quite easy for this build. Alright, let me jump over and show you exactly how to build this and describe to you exactly how this works. Alright everyone, let me walk you through and show you how to build this Monk. First of all, we're going to take 5 pieces of Sunwuku and 2 pieces of Captain Crimson's, and with the Ring of Royal Grandeur in the cube, it's going to complete both sets for us. For the Sunwuku and the 2-piece, while Sweeping Wind is active, we're going to have 50% damage reduction. It's always going to be active, so that's very nice to survive. The 4-piece, you can ignore that. And for the 6-piece, Tempest Rush is going to be increased by 1500% for every stack of Sweeping Wind that we have. So we get 10 stacks from the Vengeful Wind and 3 stacks from the Sweeping Wind skill itself. So we're going to get 13 times that 1500% multiplier for Tempest Rush and deal amazing damage. Captain Crimson's, the 2-piece bonus, is going to give us cooldown and resource cost. And the 3-piece bonus, for all the cooldown that we have, we're going to deal more damage. And for all the resource cost that we have, we're going to take less damage. Both of these are very important for this build. The cooldown is important because it's going to bring back our Epiphany and now make us deal more damage. And the resource cost is important because we need to be casting Tempest Rush all the time, and the resource cost is going to allow us to do that, and it's going to let us take less damage. Okay. Now for the itemization on all the gear, it's everything that you would expect. You want crit hit damage, crit hit chance, cooldown, resource cost because of the Captain Crimson's, percent damage, area damage, all that stuff. The one thing that you don't want to look for on your gear is attack speed, because attack speed is going to attack faster with Tempest Rush, and that is going to drain your resources, and if they get drained completely, then you're going to lose your stacks and deal no damage. So we want everything except attack speed. So for the weapons, we're going to start with Wan Kim Lao. It's going to make Tempest Rush deal 600% increased damage, and it's going to activate a Cyclone Strike. That's going to help us gather the monsters, it's going to help us proc our area damage, and with the Cyclone Strike Soothing Breeze rune, it's going to help keep us alive, okay? Percent damage, area damage, and cooldown is what I would go for here, but if you get Dex or Vit or resource cost reduction, that would work as well. Vengeful Wind, again, we need this to get the 10 stacks of Sweeping Wind and to get that big multiplier from the 6-piece of Sun Wukong. And you need 1 life on hit roll on one of the weapons to stay alive, so I just threw it on the Sweeping Wind, but if it's on the Wan Kim Lao, that's fine. And we're going to take area damage and cooldown along with it. We're going to socket both of these with crit hit damage, and we're going to augment our entire character with dexterity to deal more damage. Captain Crimson's boots, you craft these from a pattern. You can get the pattern by doing bounties. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts, so just keep trying. Dex, Vit, All Resist, and of course Tempest Rush damage is what we want on the boots. For the leggings, again, Dex, Vit, and All Resist. Got to take 5 pieces of Sun Wukong. Convention of the Elements is going to give us a big multiplier on our cold cycle, which is when we're going to drop our Tempest Rush bomb during cold. Crit area damage is what we want here, and we'll take Bane of the Stricken to help us get the Guardian down. As you saw in the footage that I just showed you, I murdered the Guardian very quickly, so it's possible if you're doing lower level content you could swap Bane of the Stricken for a different gem, but if you're pushing super high solo, I would recommend taking it. Sitting Ring of the Zodiac, we're going to need this to keep our Epiphany up at all times. We're going to roll the attack speed off for a socket and take crit, cooldown, and resource cost again because of the Captain Crimson's bonus. And it's just going to bring back our skills as we attack. For the gem, we'll take Teguk. We're going to get 8% increased damage when we spend resource with a channeled skill. We're going to be channeling Tempest Rush all the time, so we're going to get a big multiplier, and we're going to get increased armor. On the belt, Dex, Vit, All Resist, and Life, just everything to help us stay alive. For the gloves, we'll take the Quadfecta if we can get it, again without attack speed. Crit, area damage, and cooldown. On the shoulders, Dex, area damage, cooldown, resource cost, trying to take maximum advantage of our Captain Crimson's. Sun Wukong crown, Dex, crit, and again the Tempest Rush roll, definitely need that. More damage. Now here you have a choice. If you take the cooldown gem, it's going to give you more damage from Captain Crimson's. If you find that you're having trouble surviving or having trouble with your spirit, swap out the diamond for a topaz, and that will make your quality of life much better. The chest, Dex, Vit, All Resist, and we're socketing all of our armor pieces with diamonds to stay alive. Flavor of Time, these are very hard to get that roll this well, but the dream would be cold, crit, and you're going to have to get the cooldown roll because we're going to roll the movement speed off for the socket, and we'll take Bane of the Trap, that's pretty much in every DPSing build of all time, just to deal more damage. And Cesar's Memento enemies are going to take 800% increased damage from Tempest Rush, After we hit them with a blind, we'll just take a blind, we'll blind them right before we blow them up, and we're going to get that huge multiplier. I'd take cold, dex, crit, and instead of the Vite, if you can get it, I would take another life on hit roll just to make sure that you can survive all the time. Epiphany is going to give us 50% damage reduction, and it's going to increase our spirit regeneration. It's going to let us Tempest Rush all the time. We have to take Sweeping Wind for Sun Wuku and keep it up, and Inner Storm is going to give us 8 spirit per second. It doesn't do any damage, we're just using it there for the multiplier. We have to take Blind for Cesar's Memento, so we'll cast it right before we detonate our Tempest Rush, and Faith in the Light will give us 29% increased damage for 3 seconds. Mantra of Salvation is going to help us stay alive, and you can activate the Agility rune if you need extra survivability if you get into very dangerous situations. Cyclone Strike, we never have to actually press this because it's always being cast as we Tempest Rush because of the Wan Kim Lao, and I would take the Soothing Breeze rune, which is going to heal you and keep you alive. And of course, for the main event, Tempest Rush Flurry, we're taking the Cold rune. We're going to stack this up to 100 stacks, and we're going to get 90% weapon damage for every stack before we detonate it, and then we're just going to blow up the entire screen. For the passives, Guardian's Path, you're going to have a 35% chance to dodge incoming attacks as long as you're dual wielding. It's going to keep us alive. Beacon of Yitar, all cooldowns down by 20%. That's amazing with the Captain Crimsons. Momentum increases your damage by 20% for 6 seconds after you've moved 25 yards. And Relentless Assault, 20% more damage to enemies that are blinded. Okay. Now these last two passives are very aggressive for dealing more damage. You can take a Cheat Death, you can take Near-Death Experience, you can take Harmony to stay alive if you need it, or if you're playing hardcore, but I'm going to show you the full damage version to try to get every ounce of power that you can out of this build. Balance, the damage of Tempest Rush is increased by 600%, and when Tempest Rush hits 3 or fewer enemies, it has a 100% chance to crit, so that's amazing for the Guardian. That's why we were guaranteed to hit him for that mega bomb. Lefebvre's Soliloquy, after we Cyclone Strike, we take 50% less damage. Well, we're always Cyclone Striking because we're always Tempest Rushing with Wan Kim Lao, so we always have this up. And of course, Ring of Royal Grandeur is going to let us complete our Sun Wuku and Captain Crimson sets. For the Paragons, take movement speed and max spirit. If you build your character exactly the way that I do, I would start to put some points into vitality. I'd play with at least, let's say, 700,000 health. And once you reach whatever level you're comfortable with, put the rest into dex. For here, take everything except for the attack speed. Well, you can take the attack speed, but take the attack speed last. It's okay to put the Paragon points in here, as long as you aren't draining your spirit, but a little bit of attack speed will help you stack Stricken on the Guardian, so just make sure you take this last. For defense, I'd take Resist All first, then Life, then Armor, then Life per second last. And area damage, resource cost, and life per hit are the best things to take in utility, and then gold fine last. Okay? Well, that's it, everyone. That was just one continuous shot. Hopefully this build makes sense to you now, and it's a lot of fun to play. It's a little gimmicky with those monsters with the big hitboxes, but we'll see if some of the changes that Blizzard made has helped with that. Otherwise, you can just avoid them, but this may be the top monk solo build in Season 19. Please like and subscribe if this helped you, and I'll see you on Friday for the start of Season 19. Thank you.